been very, very excited about hosting these sessions, right? It becomes an opportunity for me to interact with such diverse set of people, right, who've experienced changes, digital transformation firsthand. And I think what we've gone through in the last 2.5 years has been absolutely unreal. I think it's poised us for a very different kind of a growth. It's transitioned us into being a very large digital economy, right? Nobody could have anticipated, us to have shifted so fast, right? To have adopted so fast. And this is an adoption which is not necessarily happening at just tier A or the front cities, right, or the cosmopolitans in the country. We're a fairly large ship, and this is a transition which has happened across the board, across the country, even to rural levels, right? People have become very, very comfortable. Financial matters, which are the most, for example, complicated, right? People have adopted to digital technology as far as that is concerned, right? It just becomes important with that shift in the consumer mindset, right? With that shift in the when the audience who's transacting, right? I think the onus and the pressure and the criticality of adoption of technology within organizations has become so much more important. While physical was relevant at one point of time, I think digital is something which is going to now become mainstay as we go forward. It's so much more efficient. It's so much more transparent. There are many advantages. Something that we're going to talk of through the course of this conversation today. I mean, the topic that we're going to be talking about is going to be more about collaboration and agility. Something that by default is a very key characteristic of digital enablement, right? When we talk of that, with me today, I have an exceptional panel. I have Mr. Manav Kapoor, who's the co-founder and CBO of Idea Bridge. Manav, it's good to have you with us. I have Gautam. Gautam is the CEO and managing director of Hayagriva Softwares. Gautam does something very interesting, and we look to discuss some very interesting aspects through the course, Gautam. What you're doing is very critical, right, around risk management. We're going to talk more about that. I think with this shift, I think what you're doing and risk becomes a very key and a critical component in the larger scheme of things. I have Naren Kumar Dubey, who's the founder and director of Prodigy Recruitment and Consulting. Mr. Dubey, it's good to have you with us. This is a space which is become very hot, and I think it's digital literacy, for example, has become a very key trait in understanding who do we hire going forward, right? I think because that element and that understanding is going to be so much more important for the skills of tomorrow to cater to the customer tomorrow. I have Nubendu Chakrabarti, Director Strategy of Telstar Industries Private Limited. Mr. Chakrabarti, it's a pleasure to have you. I have Poonam Hariharan, founder Organic Amrit. Poonamji, it's a pleasure to have you with us. You're doing a startup, something very interesting. You're kind of disrupting some traditional practices by bringing in new digital, environment, and look forward to having you discussing some of those aspects with you, right? That transition with you through the course. And I have Mr. Rajesh Gupta, who's the Vice President, Product Marketing, ICS at TataTele Business Services. Mr. Gupta, it's a pleasure to have you here. Your role becomes very important because, like many others who are essentially business promoters and founders, you are an enabler who's evangelized the cause of technology adoption, who's supported many of these organizations to very quickly switch to relevant environments to continue to offer very consistent service, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you with us. It's an important discussion today. Like I said, collaboration and agility is what we're talking about, through the course of the session. This session is going to be, why it's important is because, one, of course, it becomes an important part for us to understand the challenges that you've sort of gone through. But I think what has also become important is that this is going to be a reference point for many people who are going to be watching these sessions beyond this interaction. And I think a lot of people who are at fence, who don't necessarily know the direction that they need to sort of pick up and switch to, I think a lot of what you, for example, have done in your internal mechanics and your organizations, right, with your stakeholders is going to become very important for them to decide and cross over, something which is very, very important in today's time, right? And I think we want to be playing that role, right? Who can help people navigate through these difficult times. With that, I would request each one of you to do a quick round of introduction of yourselves or the work that you do, and we move into the session for the day. Mr. Narendra Kumar, I'm going to come to you. If you could quickly introduce yourself.
Hi, many thanks to all the panelists. My name is Narendra Kumar Dubey. So I'm the founder director with the Prodigy Recruitment and Consulting, OPC Private Limited. So we are majorly into the HR consulting, recruitment and executive search for BFSI sector. And largely we do for the insurance companies. So be it general insurance companies, be it health insurance companies, be it life insurance companies. And also we are into we cater to the need of the large insurance broking houses. So that's how the this is my background. So we've been operating from Mumbai with a team of specialized the executive search consultants and catering to the needs of the BFSI sector.
Amazing, Mr. Dubey. It's good to have you with us. I'm going to come to you, Gautam. Gautam, give a quick round of introduction. I, of course, mentioned your mic is on mute. I'd mentioned a few things about what you do, but I think if you could run us through very quickly, it'll be nice.
Sure. Jai Hind, pleasure to connect with all of you. I'm Gautam Goradia, founder and CEO of Hayagriva Software. But today I'm going to speak a little bit about this product that you can see on my screen behind, which is called ComSir, which is the world's only CCTV video footage auditing, smart backup, and standardized intelligent incident reporting software, which we believe is the missing piece of video surveillance. So essentially, and during the talk of this panel, I would like to share with the audience that how we, all of us across the world, are not achieving optimal outcomes from this very visually rich source of information. And if you go to our website, we've made a very, very bold statement that video surveillance today is garbage. And we will help you. Yeah, well, that's a fact. We will help you to turn it into gold. So how we're going to help you to turn it into gold, I'd like to reveal during the course of this discussion.
Super. Thank you, Gautam. Poonamji, I'll come to you. Quick round of introduction.
So hello everybody, this is Poonam Hariharan. I'm founder of Organic Amrit. It's a startup in the space of organic and eco-positive products. We're at this juncture in the phase 1 launching our website called organicamrit.com, which is primarily a one switch for conscious consumers to switch to a sustainable way of life. And as Gautam puts it, if somebody is really looking for the gold in that space, that's what Organic Amrit is trying to collaborate. It's an ecosystem to promote all the good brands, all the good work that is going on in the certified organic space, and anybody and everybody working towards recycling, reusing, reshaping products, and helping the circular economy aspects of the planet. We are their protagonists. We are the evangelists for them. We're the promoters for them. We're there to support all of those people, as well as, of course, take the country towards a more healthier outlook in terms of consumption, and that reckless living that we've done really from a consumerism perspective. I think we really need to start getting serious about certain aspects, because whether you believe it or not, we are all facing the climate what do you say, the fight back. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think no better time to be doing this, right? I think
Absolutely.
I think the most important part is that the consumer today is motivated, right? And I think one side of this entire digital transformation is the seriousness that the consumer is now approaching this entire thing, right? I think they're hooked onto a very transparent ecosystem, right? And thus it becomes important for businesses to very quickly transform, right? Because the seriousness is very deep and meaningful, right? Manav, I'm going to come to you. A quick round of introduction, that'll be very helpful.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ashu. So I am co-founder and chief business officer of a product company called IdeaBridge, the leading providers of enterprise innovation management, or basically tools for open innovation, crowdsourcing, hackathon, or launching hackathons. We've been helping large enterprise companies as well as mid-sized companies and government to drive innovation programs. And we've been successful in terms of, we have more than 1 lakh users. We have almost helped companies to save $15 million in terms of cost savings. There have been continuous process improvements. And it's just not basically helping the white collar employees. We are also addressing, you can say, the blue collared employees in terms of we give them opportunity to contribute their ideas as well on the platform, which was not happening and they were not getting noticed. So we are into the innovation space, and we are also working with the Government of India, one of their strategic departments, where we are helping them to build the science and innovation platform, Bharat platform. So that's
super. Great work, Manav. We're going to talk more about that through the course of conversation. Mr. Gupta, coming to you. like I said, right? I think having you in the conversation is just so much more important and critical, right? Because
Right.
you with your team has really led this change, right? So quick round of introductions is going to be helpful.
Thank you, and it's honor to be here. I was hearing, so we have great founders here, but on one extreme is Ms. Poonam, who is doing an organic agriculture, which is so-called, I would say, less technical, more natural in nature.
Right.
Other side, I heard Dr. Gautam, right, who is talking about video analytics, so that which needs high-end technical skills to analyze the real-time video analytics, right? So we as a service provider, our job is to look at all the SMB segments, saying entire IT with the need, whether it's a network, whether a collaboration tool or a cloud services for AI ML, everything could be offered through a TataTele service. So we can become a virtual CIO to all of you who are the founders, and you can focus on your core business. I lead the ICS portfolio at TataTele, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Super. With that, and like I said, right at the outset of the conversation, that I couldn't have expected a better and a diverse panel, right, to be discussing, at this session today, and especially like I said, right, on collaboration and agility, which are some just so much more critical, right? And I have so many questions, right? So we're gonna with that we're gonna dive into the session today. Mr. Dubey, I'm gonna come to you first, right? And I think at the outset, what I would love to understand from you is that what have been the thoughts, right, on digital transformation, right? Because this has been a phase which has fundamentally challenged how we looked at business, right? How we looked at doing business, right? A lot of, for example, whatever we did, right, all of our policies in an organization, everything that we did was calibrated to ensure that there was a massive emphasis that we had on everything physical, for example, right? Digital was used, but not necessarily critical to undertake a business, right? Last 2 years, what we've seen is it's just completely transformed, right? Physical and real estate driven inefficiencies have actually been thrown out of the window, right? Everything is now coming to digital, right? Organization coming to digital. You are in a very unique position, one, because you are hiring for companies, right? So the expectation on employees, for example, has changed, but the for you to sort of have delivered, right, as efficiently has also changed. How's been this phase for you, right? How's transformation been for you? How do you look at it? And when I say you look at it, my sense is the perspective that you're going to give me is going to be that of the industry, right? Where most organizations within the same space would have experienced a similar rush to transform very quickly. How's your experience been?
Asu, I'll started the journey since the lockdown, and then the reopening of the market, and the entire the transformation is still taking place. I will not say this just it's a destination. It's a continuous process. And what is happening? When this sudden Janta curfew and then the lockdown and all, trust me, Asu, especially you talk about our kind of industries, it operates purely based on human intelligence.
Right.
Technology is there, and I will not say that technology is not there. Technology is there, but technology was just a kind of a support function. It was not a mainstream function.
Sure.
So initially, what used to happen, so for example, as I've told you that we are into the executive search and leadership hiring. So there was in a month's time, I used to travel by 10 to 15 days. Sometimes I'm going to Hyderabad, sometimes going to Nagpur, sometimes going to Delhi, Gurgaon, taking the leadership, because first screening has to be done by us, and then the subsequent reference goes to the companies.
Right.
But the post the pandemic, for the first 3-4 months, I mean, we were kind of enjoying, and we kind of sucked up the Netflix and Amazon. Right. So the first use of the technology happened in the form of the OTT platform.
Right.
So when the market opened up, so the first challenge what we've seen is like that there was a outflux of our people from the out of the organization.
Right.
As I've told you, we were the startups. We started in the year 2016. So very soon we are going to complete our 6th year. But we were kind of getting stabilized. Things are going perfect for us. So we were expecting things to happen automatically. But because of this pandemic, a lot of this thing happened which were totally unplanned. So the team was not ready, and they were not ready to accept the technological transformation.
Interesting. Gautam, I'm going to come to you, right? I think while of course you kind of building a very important and a critical product, right? But how's transformation, for example, been for you, right? And I think what I want to understand is Mr. Du is in a way highlighted some of the very key points, right? But he also highlighted some of the challenges, for example, that organizations face, right? We're going to separately cover the challenges that for example, go into adoption of say the transformation that I think organizations have sort of go through. But what I want to understand is, how has it been for you, right? How has digital transformation been for you, right? From say what exists in the physical environment where you possibly have a lot of engineers coming together, large teams coming together, working on certain product, refining, right? To now operating in a completely digital environment, right? How has that been for you? How has, for example, acquisition been for you, right? I'd love to understand that, right? Because a lot of occasions for a product company, experiential is a very, very important aspect, right? How's that played out for you?
Question for me?
Yes, Gautam. Yes, Gautam.
Okay. So obviously, the what we saw in these last 2 years
Sure.
Was that business actually went up and costs went down. Of course, there were challenges because we couldn't meet customers face to face and so on. But over a period of time, I think customers have become used to the fact that this is the best way to meet, and this transformation has not affected us too much, because what we've done is we've also adapted to the entire surroundings around us. That look, if you can't meet face to face, and we began to realize that it's really not important to meet face to face, because today I don't know where Poonam comes from, perhaps from south of India. Is it? Are you based out of Bangalore?
We're based out of Mumbai, Gautam.
You're based out of Mumbai. So I'm operating from Lonavala. I don't know where Rajesh is from or where you are from, Achu. But right. We are today almost face to face without the risk of having a health risk, so to speak, right? So we haven't been affected. It is digitization that has actually helped us. And later on, I'd like to tell you in realm of what we do, how digitization has helped us. But I think, I hope I've answered your question.
You have, Gautam. But Gautam, I still want to sort of understand, right? What are some of the, for example, onboarding, right? A lot of what was, see, you're at a very interesting juncture, right? So, for example, if you demonstrated your technology to somebody, right, who understand the seriousness or why they require it, right? That's one conversation, right? Acquisition is something which becomes a completely different challenge, right? And like I said, right, there's a lot of experiential which is required in what you do, the solutioning that, for example, you do, right? How's been that part taken care of, right, in the entire overall scheme of things, right?
I haven't had any difficulty whatsoever. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, we even made a presentation to the Interior Minister of Uganda. So there's a minister who came there on a Zoom call, and he was very happy to hear from us as to how we could make Uganda safer.
Right.
Okay. Sitting here in Bombay, in Lonavala, actually, I was able to convey my message very actively and very proactively, because eventually, I don't think that it's very important to be face to face, or acquisition doesn't come into the play, because when you are in any case doing things digitally, and video surveillance today has become digital.
Right.
I mean, video surveillance is an IT space now. It's not physical space anymore.
Right.
Correct. So it hasn't affected us at all.
I think that's an interesting point that you're alluding to. I think that's a very interesting point, Gautam, that you're alluding to, right? I think it's not necessarily, the pressure is not necessarily on the product company. The requirement, which is, on the consumer side or the client side, is also, there's equal seriousness, right? With which they're now kind of understanding the criticality of adopting to technology, right? And I think that's possibly really leading to this change, and that's possibly something that has led to the kind of numbers and the kind of growth that you've seen, right? And that's essentially what you're kind of referring. Mr. Gupta, I'm going to come to you, right? And you're in a very, like I said, right, at the outside of the conversation, you're in a very interesting position. You essentially enabled many of these organizations to, kind of transition from how they were into a much savvier player who's ready to take on the challenges of the future, be it on the consumer side, be it internal communication, pretty much all of that, right? And when you look at the bouquet of what TataTele services has to offer, you've also transitioned. Your journey is also, you've transitioned from being, just a connectivity provider to a much larger player, right? You're essentially now a dependable partner with everything to do in technology, right? That an organization could need, right? What's been your experience, right? What are some of the sectors I'd love to understand, right? That you think have been the fastest adopters, and where are or which are the sectors that you think that promoters and founders had a little bit of a difficulty in understanding the changing requirement and the landscape?
Got it. No, I will answer it two-dimensionally on this. One is
Sure.
this, your second question, that which are the industries? Interestingly, I would say, because pandemic has lasted for almost 2.5 years, I think almost every industry has picked up. The Zoom or video conference, what we're using right now for the event, we offer that, right? And one of the sector, let's talk about education sector, in which case is the most toughest sector from IT perspective, right? Because teachers are generally not the tech savvy. Founders spend more money in the physical education, the school or the university setup.
Right.
But the last deal we cracked around 2 months back in Punjab, and I'll talk about the transformation of physical world to a digital world and how the conversation happened. The founder of the university was that when you send your kids to a university, you feel secure, right? That they're going to campus, there's a security, the teacher, the social security there. But when the same classroom shift from a physical to a digital world, you are not sure what's happening on the laptop, right? What the kid is doing in his particular room. And that's why we spoke about a safe classroom concept. So we gave them Zoom, which is for the collaboration teaching perspective. We also gave them the security software, which is required on the device, which is doing some sort of video analytics, what Gautam was talking about, right?
Sure.
That able to see that the students are really focusing. Are they doing something mischievous activities on the so that's what I'm talking about. A physical classroom, which is the safest for the parents, we feel we could give the same capability on the classroom on the online model. And that's the physical to digital transformation we are able to support. And for the same customer, if they need a cloud service like an Amazon or a Azure or a Google Cloud, we can offer that. So from a connectivity to everything, and that's we call a physical to digital transformation. We are enabling that today for many customers.
Very interesting. I think that's a fair perspective, right? And I think these are some very real issues that you've highlighted, right? And I think organizations are still working to kind of solve that. Gautam is of course doing a very important job in the entire scheme of things, right? Where he's making video feed so much more intelligent, right, and actionable, most importantly, right? Gautam, I'm going to be discussing some of that with you through the course of the conversation, right? But before I do that, Poonam, I want to come to you, right? And Manav, I'm coming to you next, right? Is that you are in a very, again, an important position, right? Because you're essentially in a position that of an enabler, right? You have many suppliers on the back end. Manav, in your case, you have many stakeholders, right? So you're working with the government and you're working with the education institutions. You're working with so many of the stakeholders, right? Now, when you talk of digital transformation, an internal digital transformation for an organization is just so much more easier, right?
Right.
When it's on the consumer side, it's very easy to understand that the consumer is more sensitive. There are certain actionables that you need to have within the organization that you need to make, and functional changes that you need to make, right, to address those things, right? But when you are dependent on, say, for example, a large supply chain, right, a distributed supply chain, and Poonam, in your case, that's all the more complex because, these are not people who've been very traditional, right, in the ways that they've done business, right? They've not necessarily been very technology savvy, right? How's this been for you, right? How's the transformation, for example, been for you? What's been the lag that you've, say, for example, or is there a lag that you kind of noticed? Was this a set which was very quick to adopt to this entire, the newer world requirements that were needed, right, for you to communicate better with your consumer, given that you're in a very unique position? How's transformation been for you? What's been the journey there? I'd love to understand.
Okay, so let me take you back 3 years ago when the R&D of the entire business plan started. Of course, it was a lot of physical, going to the farms, going to the farmers, going to meet the stakeholders. So there was a lot of physical element involved, which is expensive, as Gautam mentioned. It's all become really cheap. So there are some very downsides to COVID, but moment COVID started, a good thing that happened for Organic Amrit was we were chosen. We were a part of something called as the Women Startup Program, sponsored by Goldman Sachs and conducted by NSR Cell and IIM Bangalore. So coming from a very physical research and R&D, we actually instantly, COVID started and the program started in September, and we instantly moved to an online based learning, the tools, the mentorship and everything. The beauty that I saw at that time within the R&D aspects as well, people suddenly opened up to, meetings on the Zoom. People were even okay just on, they were so paranoid in the first second wave, they were even okay just with phone calls, right? So a lot of R&D we could do just sitting in the comfort of our home. Second thing that happened, while the onboarding of the suppliers started, so coming to the question of how the suppliers took to the transition, and the back end operations and the logistics. So for us, I feel that we were anyway baptized by fire. So as we started onboarding the suppliers, I think suppliers by then had become very aware of the need of the hour. They were very aware that, if it has to be, if it has to really come, because they did feel the pinch in the beginning 6-7 months of COVID. A lot of businesses suffered, specifically with the organic segment. A lot of them were exporters, and exports suddenly stopped. So there was just so much influx of products which we needed to be sold, because two things, they are shorter on shelf life, right? Logistics were completely hampered in the country. So I think they were very happy to get people like Organic Amrit, companies like ours, who were giving them a Mumbai exposure, for example. What we strategically did is we tried to tie up with brands and companies that had, for the fresh produce, because COVID is still continuing, still there's a lot of if and but going on with logistical aspects. We tried to tie up with all of the fresh produce companies within the Mumbai scenarios. Luckily, we got some very good players, and some of them are pioneers, like Russ Organics, the only certified organic juice that you have. And then with companies that really had very sturdy products, and drop shipping was a good idea, we went ahead with them. However, I as a founder, I am not putting and bracketing myself into standard ERP system, standard integrations for logistics. We've realized in COVID times you need to be very agile, very flexible. If something needs to happen on a physical ground with in-house team, we shall do it. We've even gone ahead and done the preliminary conversations and sort of a verbal tie-ups with organizations like Dabbawala that suffered during the COVID times completely. So mine is a very conscious company. We are looking at costs, we are looking at modalities, we are looking at the entire principles that are backing up the operations. We're doing nothing mindless, nothing that is taking us away from the theme of protecting the planet, protecting Earth, and really doing what we're really doing. But overall, I think COVID scenarios have really worked for us. Everything happened at a lesser cost, right? We went ahead and did everything on the cloud. All the APIs that we are integrating are all online. We've outsourced so many functions because these functions suddenly sprung up and they refined themselves to help other businesses. And I think for us, it's really worked out wonders, really. And we're all set for launch. So the consumer aspect, we've only touched upon with a soft launch, which was pretty good. We did it with WhatsApp Business. Again, it was digital in a way. And we were 3 weeks. We had 50 paid customers. It was a great touch point, great experience. Very small, very minuscule dot in the thing, but it was a great boost to our motivation. Now we're looking at launching next week. So I'll come back to you with more details on the customer acquisition and acceptance, in the due course.
These have been very interesting times. I think that while there's a lot of challenge that we've come across. I think these have been interesting times, right? Manav, I'm going to come to you, right? And like I said, there are many stakeholders that are there in your, in what you do, right? You were, enabling a lot of people to, for example, do better, right? In say certain tasks, right? Innovation, so many other things, right? Uh, how has that been, right? Because a lot of these businesses, for example, that you deal with got disrupted in the process, right? What I want to understand is how is stakeholder behavior, for example, impacted your growth, right? I mean, when we look at organizations, fundamentally, everybody talks of, how they've grown. Everybody in the digital environment, for example, has succeeded. I have a bunch of points on that, right, which I'll come to later. But how is it behaved for you particularly, right? Because a lot of these organizations, like I said, went through a lot of disruption in the process. What's been your experience in the in the entire scheme of things?
Yeah, sure. So I think according to McKinsey also, so businesses actually surprised themselves with the speed and success in terms of digital initiatives in response to the COVID. On average, digital offerings have actually leapfrogged 7 years of progress in a matter of months.
Right.
The second, because of COVID, the remote working. So within a span of 11 or 15 days, they have actually built the entire infrastructure for remote working, which could have taken a one at least a year time.
Sure.
That's making an acceleration of almost 40 times of what the actual effort was there.
Sure.
So for us, is basically like we interact with a lot of stakeholders in the corporates and government. The biggest challenge for us is culture of innovation.
Right.
So they might like the software, they are very keen to implement, but they are worried whether their employees will be able to do justice with that. So first of all, they want us to basically build a culture of innovation by doing workshops, design thinking, a workshop where we actually help them to identify the problem statement of their business. Because if they don't know problem statement, the innovation will not success because they will not be able to get innovative ideas from their employees. So which is actually a interesting exercise for us, and our team closely work with all the stakeholders. We come up with customized innovation programs, more of an education, and then helping them to talk about the benchmarks of innovation, how other companies are actually innovating, getting benefits in various areas like increasing the customer experience or employee engagement, continuous process improvement, product innovation. So it's a pretty interesting, you can say, engagement what we drive with all these customers.
Interesting. Mana, what I want to understand particularly from you, right, is that, when you're doing what you're doing, right, this is an area which is important and not so important, right? I think what happened, as far as COVID is concerned, Mr. Gupta, I'm coming to you on this one, right? Because I think your perspective is very, very important, right? The first call to action was to defend their core business, right? With what you're offering, Manav, is something which, like I said, right, is an experiential activity, which is an added-on activity, which is there to benefit a lot of people, but then the benefit is not definitive, right? It's a benefit which is amorphous, something that you're going to see over a period of time, which, and this is not necessarily a very critical priority, something that possibly, say, Gotham experience, right? That was a very critical priority, right? For, say, manufacturing and a bunch of other sectors, right? How was it for you, right? How was stakeholder behavior? While, of course, we're talking about, growth, adoption, so on and so forth, right?
Yes.
That it also brought in a certain lag, right? Did you experience that lag in the, while, of course, you transformed, right? You were available with, say, Zoom and other tools that were required to deliver same service and experience, right? What was the change when it came to stakeholders' behavior, right? Did you see lags? Did you see contracts getting reworked on? What was your experience in the industry?
So basically, like it was a mix of response. So wherever there was focus on innovation and where they had, you can say, team assigned for this activity in terms of process excellence, business excellence, or you can say product innovation. There, they actually basically thought that this is a good, you can say, opportunity for us to finalize a platform like IdeaBridge, where we can actually have a collaboration between, you can say, internal employees, external business partners, or there are a lot of problem statement where they wanted even, you can say, to launch hackathons as well, to collect solutions or innovative ideas. So they were able to actually take a decision. And then considering the COVID, we also came up with some incentive for them that we offered a 3-month trial. So especially for industries like pharmaceutical, where we realized there is a lot of R&D happening and there's a lot of collaboration happening with various stakeholders. So which they like, and that actually helped them to take a decision in terms of the platform, understand benefits, take to the management that this kind of basically incentives will be getting after implementing this platform.
Sure.
So
very interesting. Very interesting, Mr. Gupta. I'm going to come to you, right? And I think, my interest to ask you these questions is just so much more higher because the experience is so rich at your end, right? It becomes important, to discuss these points with you, right? Now, what we're talking about here is the stakeholder behavior, right? Now, stakeholders, for example, and like I said, right, in Manav's case, in Poonam's case, right, stakeholders could, they were they got into a position of defending their core business. They did not, and that became a huge challenge, right? So while there were organizations that understood that, transition is important, then they transitioned internally. Of course, there are internal challenges which we're going to talk about through the course of the conversation, right? But there were stakeholders who were not necessarily prepared for this, right? What's been your experience, right? Because, like I said, right, your role was not only limited to ensuring and supporting these organizations to transform, it was basically also collectively enabling and evangelizing the overall shift, right? Which essentially mean that the stakeholders also came on board, right? The supply chain, for example, came on board very quickly, right? What's been your experience on that front, right?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, because we deal with SMB organizations, and they are the key stakeholders are not necessarily that tech savvy before the pandemic, right?
Sure.
So we saw 3 ways to handle it. One is the comforting them with the Tata brand name, that if we are offering a particular product or service or digital, there is a science or a method or a management has gone behind selecting a particular product and offering to customers. It's not that somebody is giving you more commission than I'm offering it. So that's where the product which we choose in the market are slightly more selective than anyone else.
Sure.
Second thing, we also realize that with stakeholder comfort, we have to give them some sort of proof of concept. So allow them to play out with the technology, so that not in a full scale, but they can experience some benefit very quickly. And we did a lot of POCs with few customers in terms of when the business owner is not comfortable.
Sure.
And third important thing is hand-holding in terms of giving them the educational aspect of this. So a lot of customer support tickets which we get from customers are about using the particular product. So they purchase the most commonly used platform called Zoom, but still the founder or the stakeholder, senior management is not comfortable with that particular features.
Right.
Typically, a service organization says this is not a tech support issue, so go and read the user manual. What our support system did is that we took customer on the call. Our call agents gave them demo, and that made us convert business also. So while the customer is comfortable, and hence they were able to place order. So we found especially the lot of endpoint security, where security became very, very critical when we talk about digital, right? Or the collaboration program like Zoom, the POC helping the founders understand technology, giving them the comfort about talking to Tata, a well-selected product. I think that helped us a lot. And that was useful for the stakeholder conversion to saying that, okay, non-technical to be technical comfort.
Very interesting. Mr. Gupta, I have had the opportunity of speaking with many people across the country, right? From TTBS. I think one of the things that I experienced, right? Of course, while there has been a deep understanding on the application side of it, and motivating the promoter and the leadership to very quickly switch on to these things. I think what your teams on the ground have specifically also done is that they've addressed some very critical key problems very smartly, right? And I think that really brings in that entire sharpness, and that I think agility brings in a very different perspective, right? In terms of what are some of the things that the leadership can do to sort of onboard stakeholders, right? Evangelize that change, communicate with them going forward, right? I think they've really been problem solvers on the ground beyond what's expected out of them, right? I think that's been absolutely phenomenal and standout.
And I'm adding an interesting example, which has said that the software tool which we offer to a customer, it comes an annual model. So customers to pay annual advance. But we realized that some of the stakeholders weren't comfortable to commit money for upfront, right? So and that's the change business model we did. While we are paying to the OEM on annual basis, but we have started charging, saying, okay, quarterly or a monthly model. So while we are taking a risk, just in case the customer does not like the product, they may still churn away, but we will pay to the vendor. And that's the kind of customer centricity we are able to bring on table because of the value proposition.
I think that's the ethos, right? And I think, like I said, I've done a bunch of these sessions. I think I've spoken with the leadership across, and I think that's an ethos which is constant, right? I think that customer centricity and that focus on delivering value is, I think, just so much more phenomenal, right? Gentlemen, when we talk of collaboration, when we talk of, I think challenges has been a constant, right? All of us, across our businesses went through these challenges. Our clients went through these challenges. Our stakeholders went through these challenges. Something that we've alluded to, and we kind of covered in the earlier questions that we kind of discussed, right? I think what is also important, and something that I want to spend some time on, right? And Gautam, I'm coming to you on this one, and then to Mr. Dubey, right? Is that bringing our own internal teams to come in and switch very quickly was not necessarily as easy, right? There are a lot of other nuances that got covered in it, right? People were not necessarily comfortable. Technology was like I said, right, there were certain elements in technology that were new additions to what they did. Environment became a problem, right? So there were some very, very critical key issues when it came to employee level adoption of technology, right? Gautam, what's been your experience on that front, right? You've been a technology company. A lot of technology application in any case was happening on your this thing, right? But this is now happening on an offline setting. How comfortable were employees coming on board, collaborating the way they did? With say Zoom-like technologies and many other solutions that have been available and that have been adopted, right? What's been your experience on that front? How's the efficiency been, right? Has it been initially? My sense is it was impacted, but I think efficiency very quickly came back because people were not necessarily wasting time. They were available more longer hours, right? What's been your experience?
I think you've answered it. So we haven't had, again, timings have been very flexible. People have been more than happy to work longer hours. They've been more available. And in the space that the company works in, which is currently in the area of video surveillance, and I think Rajesh would be very interested in what we do and a few things that Rajesh spoke about. What has happened is, especially because I'd like to use the word collaborative and agile both in my explanation and slightly veer away from your question, so to speak, because as I said, employee, we've had no difficulty at all. From a customer perspective also, it has been much, much easier for customers to adopt to this technology. And from Rajesh's perspective, when he spoke about machine learning and AI and so on the cloud,
sure.
When it comes to video surveillance, there are very, very few people who will take video and put it to the cloud.
Right.
Okay, there are a lot of companies that are coming in and offering this service, but there are very, very few who are adopting it simply because video is very, very heavy in nature. So you would hardly have, unless you've got huge budgets and you've got governments who can afford these kind of things, you will hardly have a user, even let's say, I'll just take a name for the sake of taking the name, State Bank of India, which would probably have about 22,000 branches across the country. You can never expect State Bank of India to take all this humongous amount of video and put it to the cloud. But you'd be very happy to know that the way, being a product company and how this helped us to think very differently, how we are able to reduce terabytes of data into gigabytes, terabytes to gigabytes, and then send the data to companies like TataTele services or Azure or Google Drive or OneDrive and so on which then they can offer machine learning and so on, so forth services. The other very important part about collaboration is the angle of what we have been saying about auditing. See, look, auditing has never been collaborative in nature. Now with Zoom, and if I were to, let's say, audit video surveillance feeds that are outside the country, on Zoom, sitting on Zoom, I would very easily be able to audit an entire day's footage anywhere in the world using our technology.
Sure.
Okay, so this has been an amazing collaborative auditing. So I could get somebody, let's say from America right now, we would be doing a collaborative auditing and looking at 24 hours of his footage and, trying and finding out what went wrong, what went right, and so on and so forth. So we've not really had much difficulty. And since I'm on the topic of audit, I just want to bring that importance here, because I think the whole world will speak only about AI. And I think AI needs to be redefined, not as artificial intelligence, and IBM has also redefined it. It needs to be now called as augmented intelligence, where human intelligence and artificial intelligence work together.
Right.
So 16th of November 2021, the highest office in the country, Prime Minister Modi, dedicated 16th of November to be the Audit Divas of India. So that is the kind of importance that has now gone to auditing, any kind of auditing. And speaking about AI, 15 days ago, 20 days ago, he was at IIT Kanpur. And what is the statement that Prime Minister made? He says, you guys can keep on working on artificial intelligence, but do not forget human intelligence.
Right.
That is the offering that we bring to the table. So we
interesting.
like to call ourselves to be the MS Office of video surveillance.
Interesting
We will
point that
just
you
make things extremely easy for you.
interesting point that you've highlighted, Gautam. Interesting point that you've highlighted, and I think more importantly, while of course my question was around the challenges of adoption that, for example, organizations have faced, I think what you've possibly offered is a solution to continue to manage and map, the kind of work efficiency that is now getting delivered, right? Not in a negative way.
Absolutely.
It's just that there's a lot of course correction that can happen in the process, right? Mr. Dubey, I was to come to you, but I'm going to go to Mr. Gupta, right? I think he's and this is going to be last question, Mr. Gupta. We know that you have to hop off for another critical call. Mr. Gupta, I think what is important is, while of course we've been talking about digital transformation, right? I think and when we talk of challenges, I think one thing which is now being discussed, right? I think Omnicron and the third wave coming in is kind of possibly dissipated of some of these fears, right? But we are essentially a country which goes back to readjusting ourselves very, very quickly, right? So while of course we talked about adoption of technology, and when we talked about transformation, I think one of the fears and the challenges has been that what if today we do this, tomorrow a consumer goes back into the original setting, right? What do we do with all of this, right? I know you have a lot of solutions, right? You actually kind of broken it down in a very smart way, which is very efficient for organizations, not necessarily doing a capex, right? But what's your thought of it, right? I'd love to hear from you on that one.
Yeah, I think if you ask me, my view is that we will go back to a hybrid approach. So,
Sure.
and I think everybody talks about it.
Sure.
And I was started experiencing it not because of pandemic, but by virtue of people experiencing digital technology. So, just a week back, before wave 3, we opened our offices, right? The sales guys on the street, they're meeting customers. But today, this has become very easy for customers to accept that, okay, my sales guy is coming for the meeting in the physical form,
right?
But senior management, the leadership team is joining on the video conference, right?
Right.
So that's the hybrid acceptance wasn't existing 2 years back.
Interesting.
And 2 years back, customers are thinking, what, your manager is not willing to come here into my office. So they hurt the ego, right?
Right.
Today is very comfortable. Okay, you come and meet me, we'll do the groundwork, brainstorming and the whiteboarding will together. But let your manager join for like half an hour. I'll update him about the progress. And that is the transformation will probably. So we'll go back to, let's say, physical is important, right?
Right.
You can't deny that physical world will not work. There are a lot of thinking, collaboration required. But then digital, I think, is here to stay and it will end up becoming hybrid.
Very interesting. Mr. Gupta, I would like to thank you on that note. And like I said, right, I know that you have to hop off for another important call, but it was a pleasure to have you with us. And I look forward to having you across many, many more such conversations. Thank you so much for taking the time out.
Thank you very much. And it's great being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you. Rajesh.
I will go to Mr. Dubey. Mr. Dubey, you've been waiting very patiently. And I'm going to go back to the employee question, right, which is a very fundamental question to this conversation. Gautam beautifully answered it, right, and Gautam actually gave a solution, right, which is very helpful, right? Typically, we don't come across such solutions in the process. I think we just get too deep into discussing the problem, right? Gautam, thank you for doing that, right? But Mr. Dubey, how has it been for you, right? And like I said, the expectation on the client side completely changes, right? Which essentially meant that your team did not only have to struggle with the challenges of shifting online, they also had to kind of solve for and take care of the challenges on the client side of things, right? How's adoption been for your employees within the organization? I'd love to understand that.
See, you agree with me one thing. It is not very difficult for the organization, especially the large companies,
right,
to adopt the system and technology because they have the, they have the person, they have this infrastructure, they have everything, and most importantly, they have the money to implement all these, the change or the system and the processes.
Right.
But if talk about the SMEs, especially in a person-driven organization, people like us who have been running organizations, so it is not so easy. And trust me, also it was when we come out of the first wave and we started working. Trust me, half of my team was, they raised their hands, it's not possible for us to, get into a technology mode because suddenly the company was not going for manual interviews. Everything was happening virtually. And the problem what we faced is like, the problem is that my team we always had the concept of human touch, meeting people, understanding them, then, referring them. So unless until you don't meet someone, how you can refer to them to the organization.
Sure.
But it happened, we faced some certain challenges by, Jan, up till Jan. I'm talking about 21, up till last year. When the second wave started happening, and suddenly, we could see the same kind of an, the atmosphere where the companies were, again, they have asked their people to start working from and all. That is where, my team realized, I think we have to change. We have to adapt to new technology. And Asu, in our kind of industry, what is very important is that you distribute to work. So, for example, if I'm taking interviews, so there's a thing called reference check.
Sure.
If I'm referring someone, and if that someone found, happens to be a fraud person or some manipulative, it's a it's kind of a question mark on a credibility.
Right.
So what we started doing, we started collaborating with the third people, especially the third party ref check, especially the people who knew this guys. We collaborated in terms of technology also, because as I've told you, we were totally manual. We were not into a technology driven the system and processes. Then we collaborated with the cloud computing. We collaborated with the company, with the organization which will take care of my end-to-end process.
Interesting.
Right from data incoming to a joining of a person, and post joining, then there's a thing called handholding.
Right.
Because as you know that in most of the organization, the physical interviews are not happening.
Right.
Physical round are not happening. Not only that, even the physical joining is not happening.
Right.
Everything has become a virtual. So if the person joins an organization, he has to they have to make sure that the person feels comfortable.
Right.
Because neither is reporting to a zone office, nor he is reporting to the corporate office, nor he reporting to his reporting to his boss.
Sure.
Whatever reporting is happening, happening only virtually. So the transformation from a manual to a technology is not so easy. But yes, I can tell you one thing, Asu. The post the second wave, there has been a tremendous change in the attitude.
Right.
And I can see those attitude even the remotest possible areas of the India.
Sure.
Forget about Mumbai, forget about Delhi, or forget about even Pune, or forget about Bangalore. Trust me, I'm born about in Mumbai, but my paternal home is UP, the Jaunpur. Trust me, last month only I have been to my hometown.
Sure.
And I could meet 3 or 4 IT guys of my hometown.
Right.
I was surprised to know that this guy has been operating from a Jaunpur, and they are working for some of them are working for IT companies.
Absolutely.
And I would agree with Poonamji that there are some of the agriculturists who are selling their product through an online, which has been never heard of.
Right. No, absolutely. I think.
One more thing, Asu, I make a point of it, as Gautamji clearly mentions, even the government initiatives. Let me give you one of the classic example.
Sure.
Asu, I have been building my a bungalow in my hometown.
Right.
You'll be surprised to know, out of all the payment that I have made, from a contractor to a supplier, even to a plumber,
Sure.
Can you believe this? I had not made a single cash payment.
I think that's a definitive shift.
I have not made a single cash payment. Can you believe
Right.
this? I mean, I'm talking about the remotest possible areas. Asu, we've never heard of. I mean, if you go to the villages, they don't understand anything more than the cash. And
Right.
I'm sure Gautamji would be agree with me.
No, interesting. I will. I think all of us will agree. I mean, and I think I think all of us will agree. That I think the way, for example, the transactional behavior has changed, right? Transactional ability. I think it's just become so much more transparent in many ways, right? But I'm going to something. When we talk of digital transformation, when we talk of digital adoption, right? I think one thing that becomes very, very pertinent and becomes very important is security, right? Gautam has alluded to security in some form and way. But I would rather consider that to be more on the efficiency side of things, right? And risk mitigation side of things, right? Cybersecurity, for example, is what I'm kind of referring to here. Cybersecurity becomes very, very important for organizations to adopt to, right? Because as an economy becomes just so much more fragile, right? There are so many attempts, there are attacks that happen, right? And that could really curb the ability of an organization to function with a definitive outcome, perpetuity, ease, right? It could just make organizations so much more dysfunctional, right? But I'm going to come to you. Cybersecurity is just so much more important. You deal with many stakeholders, right? How have you been, for example, looking at it and tackling it within your organization? I'd love to understand that.
See, two things that happened with COVID was my entire business plan was designed, keeping in mind the current scenarios. That was the beauty of the entire process.
Right.
So, my e-commerce financials have been outsourced to another company. My logistics partners are different. We've got a lot of collaboration going on. It's really beautiful. From an employee perspective, I got a kid sitting in Uttarakhand working with me. There's a team in Delhi. We've got Mumbai. So what's happened is, of course, security is important. So we, from an employee perspective, it's very critical to have people who have strong value systems and integrities. Talent thoda bahut kam bhi ho to chalta hai. But if you're not, you're not a stickler to, okay, you've been given a task and you have to finish it. Time doesn't matter in the day. We are very flexible now. That's the change in COVID, right? I don't mind you wearing a shabby dress and working from your house in a Zoom call, as long as you're professional in your deliveries, right? That's the new age entrepreneurship blood that I have. From a cybersecurity perspective, I was very clear. I'm an e-commerce business. I couldn't have compromised anything at all, whether it's the supplier data or the customer data. So we were very clear. We wanted to put in place all of the needful things, the very basic, starting with the very basic of the SSL certificates. We've gone ahead and collaborated with a company called SiteLog. Now, SiteLog is on the watch on my website day in and day out. I sleep in peace. I don't have to worry about anything, right? So we were very clear that these were, and this is again a classic scenario of cloud. Your best utility of you having your website on cloud, your works on cloud. Everybody can be accessing it from anywhere. You can really collaborate in a virtual world in such a beautiful way, seamless way. Everything is, and company, of course, you need to do the research of the companies that you're tying up with. How good are they with the support systems? How good are they with mitigating issues? So I think the effort now is going into researching, who's the best collaborator you want to work with. And that is such a great next step to moving.
You spoke like a pro, right? You spoke like a pro on that one. I am sorry. I mean,
no worries. I know we are short for time. Yes.
We are very short on time, right? Manav, I'm going to come to you very quickly. What's been your, for example, on data privacy and cybersecurity, what's been your approach to, ensuring this, right? Because, a large part of, for example, whatever we discussed, large part of our organizational, the structure is now moved digital, right? How are you preparing yourself from a cybersecurity and digital data privacy standpoint?
So basically, there are a lot of initiatives which we took in terms of protecting the data by adopting the best practices in restricting access to the data. So we are talking about ideas which are basically IP and confidential. So, and every organization is concerned about that. So first thing what we did, basically, we moved everything on Microsoft Azure Cloud in terms of the security, or basically having multi-tenant architectures. All those checks were taken care. And then basically we minimize the collection of personal identifying information which we were storing, and we were very transparent with the individuals whose data we were collecting. And then we came up with an interesting concept, like basically even building a workflow for IP and patent management of the workflow. So any idea which can be patented. So basically our software was integrated with the API, and it gives the prior art or any IP and patents available in that domain or that segment. So there people were able to identify what are the IP or patents available, and the platform helped them to complete the complete process. So that was a unique feature which we built on the platform, looking at the confidentiality and IP of the ideas. And basically we were accessing the risk of unauthorized access, and like Poonam mentioned it, in terms of having proper checks, in terms of hacking, or every transaction, or you can say feature was embedded so that there is no data leak. And then we came up with this interesting concept where we realized that right now, people are building this innovation. They are not able to meet anybody physically. So we extended our platform and we built a virtual event management feature as well.
Wow. Very interesting.
They were building innovation and they were able to showcase this innovation to the outside world. So
That's amazing.
hackathons or you can say collaboration used to happen between companies and intellectuals. So the companies were posting problem statement and we were connecting them to intellectuals or research institutes.
That's amazing. That's amazing, Manav. And necessity is the mother of all inventions, like they say, right? And I think a lot of organizations have gone on and built some very interesting features in the process, right?
Then lastly, one thing I want to mention. So what was happening? So there were a lot of these ideas coming up and we identified that there are a lot of automations ideas coming. So why not we help companies to build this low code, no code platform where they can use the platform itself to automate these processes, like grievance management, product development, ticket management, or even incident management from one of the EHS companies. So that's where the company realized our platform value. And there was a lot of adoption in the SME and the mid-sized companies. Everybody wanted to go paperless. So they wanted to have all this digitization happening there.
Manav, you'll be surprised to know, right? I mean, I was speaking with a venture capitalist friend very recently, right? And the way they're kind of funding these no-code environments is absolutely phenomenal, right? And that's essentially the world that we're heading into. Also, that possibly helps us normalize the tech cost which is out there, right? I think players like Tata, for example, in many ways help us bring it down substantially, right? Which otherwise is just so much more difficult to go out and source and negotiate pricing on. It just becomes so much more difficult, right? I think it becomes the need for having a solid relationship team which understands your business problem is just so much more important. I think their real role is evolved. It's shifted from what they were into what they are now, right? And I think the responsibility is also shifted, right? Gentlemen, how I want these conversations to go on. Unfortunately, good things have, to be wrapped up in time for them, and that possibly also gives us another occasion to come together and talk of many, many more interesting things, right? Very quickly, I would love each one of you to give us some words or some suggestions to many entrepreneurs, many, leaders who are out there, on transformation, right? Whatever you've experienced, right? And I think each journey is unique. Each experience is unique, right? And how it can resonate with somebody is phenomenal, right? We can't even fathom the power of, going out and making these recommendations, right? So I'd love you to very quickly, each one of you, make some, points. Gautam, I'll come to you first, right? Any suggestions that you have for people who are going to be watching this, leadership who's going to be watching this on digital transformation?
2 words.
Yes, please.
Just 2 words. Passion, perseverance. End of it all.
Interesting. You've taken it at a different level altogether.
Perseverance. Passion and perseverance.
Super. Mr. Dubey, what would you want to communicate, right, to the audience who's going to be watching this?
My only advice is be ready for the change and accept the technology. Very, very important.
Very interesting. Manav, I'm going to come to you.
I would like to talk about the tagline itself: ideate, innovate, accelerate. So that is their journey and the digital transformation itself.
Awesome. Poonam ji.
Well, I believe from a startup perspective, you should know what you're really doing out there with your product, with your service, and be very, very open about learning these new good things that are coming into the market. Research them well, and then pick the best that suits your business models and your customer needs.
And become more efficient by the day, right? Bring in as much technology as you can. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much for taking the time out. Like I said, right, on a Wednesday afternoon, I couldn't have asked for a better discussion, an evolved discussion. And like I said, right, it's becoming cliched, by the way, of how I want these conversations to keep going on. It was a pleasure to host each one of you. I think everybody, like I said, right, every journey is unique. The way you tackled the issues, right, that I've come across are phenomenal, right? I think each has its own takeaway. Particularly one point that I would want to highlight is how, Gautam, you've been dealing with it, right? I think leaders can learn a lot from each other, right? I think motivation to do, adopt to the latest is just so much more important. I think it's the mindset which needs to shift, right? Till the time you consider a challenge to be a challenge, it'll be a challenge. If you think it's just a shift on a natural course of action in the given circumstance, it'll become just another problem, right? With that, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have each one of you with us. I would like to hand it over to the GovNow team the Government Connect team for a lovely presentation that they're going to have on this one. Thank you so much, each one of you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ashu.
Thank you,
Thank-
Ashu.
thank
You were
you,
a
Ashu.
wonderful moderator.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashu, and I would like to thank all the co-panelists, Ms. Poonam Hariharan, Mr. Gautam Gorodia, Mr. Narendra Kumar Dubey. Then we had Rajesh with us and Mr. Manav. So thanks a lot. It was a great session actually, and there was lots of learning and interaction which happened around digital transformation. So with this, I'd like to end this panel discussion. And after this, we have got an interesting presentation by Mr. Hemant Mathur, who is the Deputy General Manager ICS from TataTele Business Services, who will be talking about collaboration and agility, the need of the hour. So Hemant, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
So Hemant, over to you. So I'll just take a backseat from here and I'll hand over this screen to you so you can carry forward from here. Thank you, Hemant. Over to you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for such an enlightening panel discussion and a warm welcome to everybody who's attending this session of DoBig. So what we'll do is, let me just share my screen. Okay, just a second. Yeah, I hope it's visible. Okay, so in next 20 minutes or so, we'll talk a bit about collaboration and agility, which is our core theme for today. And what better way to start this with a quote from Charles Darwin about 150 years back. And he said that collaboration and improvisation or agility is very important when you want a survival, when you want to survive or when you want to thrive. So with that context, when we put that context into the current scenario of technology domain, then collaboration and agility is a combination of telecom connectivity and applications. So how it is, we'll just learn. And when we were discussing this, we realized that the technology space is continuously disrupting with a lot of innovative ideas, with a lot of new technology and platforms. And if we are ready with some answers, then we can ride that wave. We can benefit from that disruption. And if you're not, then we get we collapse with that disruption. So in the current context of pandemic, the business challenges are manifold. For some businesses, it may be tracking their employees, whether they are following the COVID protocol. It may be about how well different teams are collaborating. We heard a lot about collaboration during the panel discussion, right from, say, finding the right suppliers to the executive recruitment. So collaboration is, and Rajesh talked about the hybrid model. So collaboration is omnipresent now, but how do we collaborate? How we can have more elements of video sharing on the collaboration? Those are the key challenges for businesses. Then there are a lot of data that is still sitting in the office environment. And when say an employee of Motilal Oswal or a Policy Bazaar, they are trying to access important confidential information regarding their client, how secure it is, and how do they do it. Then it brings us to the cybersecurity and the especially with the travel restrictions where everybody is working from home. And finally, voice is a very important and essential part of the business communication, of collaboration, even in today's context. The voice may have moved from, say, a regular PSTN to a mobile voice, now to a Zoom or a Teams call. But a voice is very important part of any business transaction that is taking place. Now, when we map where we are, then in terms of technology, in terms of the context that was there with the pandemic, business continuity became very important, and the resilience as to how we can sustain this wave, how we can sustain the second wave. And now we are somewhere where we have embraced the new normal. We have started to come up with solutions, and we have realized that the hybrid work environment is here to stay. So this brings us to 5 guiding principles, if one may put, on how SMEs can engage on technology. And while there may be exceptions like any rule, but generally they hold good. So first is rent it and don't own it. Because technology is not a real estate that will appreciate. In fact, real estate is also not appreciating these days. But besides that, you need to invest in solutions wherein it's paper use model, wherein you're not owning this for ages. So it would give you a protection from obsolescence. Also select fit for purpose versus a scaled down version for large enterprise. Most of the technology solutions that are available are a squeezed down version of something that was developed for large enterprises. But SMEs are different, their needs are different, and they need solutions which are built for them. And hence, try and look for solutions which are SME centric. Then bill as you grow and pay as you use is obviously very important, because unused capacity is kind of would impact your ROIs. Try to look for integrated solutions and not silo of products, because then you'll spend most of your time in making sure that all the vendors are talking to each other, all the technology, different elements of technology are talking to each other. So it is far more simpler to go for an integrated solution. Even when you're growing organically, ensure that the next new product you have is talking to the previous ones. And obviously, IT support is expensive, and try and go for a solution that has got a solution or support built in. So these are the 5 things to keep in mind while making any technology decision. And I've been told that a lot of decision makers in this forum. So probably you can kind of try and see if it fits you. Now, when we are talking about TataTele, we have a range of smart solutions. And what are these smart solutions? So before we come to that, we are the pioneer as far as the SME, SMB space is concerned in India. We have the largest sales and distribution ecosystem for SMBs in India. We have 40,000 plus business customers, SMBs. We have 1,400, 1,500 plus partners. We are present in almost 70 plus towns now. We have 1,000 on-roll team members, and we have a huge connectivity backbone to service these customers. In terms of our product portfolio, these are the products that we have. So on connectivity side, we have an internet lease line, we have MPLS VPN, we have lease lines, we have a smart office. On the voice connectivity, we have PRI, SIP trunk, we have Hub Connect, and various other flavors of these products. Then on security practice, we started about 2.5 years back, just around the time when pandemic broke. So we have email security, we have endpoint security, we have next-gen firewall, multi-factor authentication, and web security. On collaboration, we have document management system, we have international bridging solution, we have conferencing and collaboration and webcasting solution from PGI and from Zoom. On cloud and SaaS, we have managed hosting, we have cloud CRM, and we have a product called a SmartFlow that we'll talk about during the course of today's presentation, which allows businesses to use voice when team members are working remotely. On marketing solutions, we have digital survey, we have toll-free services, we have various enhancements on the toll-free services, and then we have IoT solutions, basically revolving around fleet tracking, school bus tracking, and workforce tracking. So these are, in a nutshell, the smart solutions that we can offer you. And when we're talking about some of these solutions, so probably we can talk about this Smart Office. So Smart Office is a product that has a voice, enterprise voice, and enterprise data merged into a single box. So we realized that when SMBs are starting a new office, or probably starting a new branch office, then apart from the technology decision on connectivity, which is the internet lease line and SIP trunk or PRI, there was also this confusion on which hardware to buy. What is the right fit for my kind of business, etc. So we created this product which had a bundled hardware and that had internet lease line and SIP trunk merged into a single pipe. We also put a service layer around this with collaboration, with conferencing, with various business and office applications, and we call this as Smart Office. We won an innovation award for this product, and it's a that's a product that a lot of SMBs are appreciating when they are starting a new branch office, when they are migrating from, say, simple broadband or one or two telephone lines to enterprise grade connectivity. Then let's talk about security. In the panel discussion, we heard few pointers on cybersecurity, how it's so important to have security in the current context to maintain the agility and the collaboration speed. So if you look at all these logos here, the common point is that all of them faced a cybersecurity breach in last few months. And there are many examples. Now, cybersecurity breach is no longer a taboo. We see that a lot of businesses, SMBs, are coming out and reporting these cases. And as we run the cybersecurity practice, we get a lot of customers who report that they have faced a cybersecurity threat, or their data have been compromised, and hence they are looking for the right solutions. Whether we are browsing the internet, whether staff members are working from home, whether we are checking the email on a handheld phone, cybersecurity posture is important in all these use cases. And you've seen there's a huge surge in cyber attacks as far as SMBs in India are concerned. Some of the logos that you saw 2 slides back, so that was one, but also in various reports, the surge in cybersecurity attacks, ransomware attacks, is phenomenal. India is globally the #2 attacked country. First is obviously US, and second is India. So cybersecurity posture is very important. And what is happening is, because staff members are working from home, there are chances of an accidental device misuse. There are chances that now, because the work hours have expanded and the office time and personal time has kind of merged. So we are more and more using personal devices for office work and vice versa. And this means that it's very important to have right kind of cybersecurity tools, be it endpoint security or various other cybersecurity postures to mitigate the risk. Unlike in past, where we were almost always connected behind a secure office firewall, now we are latched on to a unsecure Wi-Fi that is shared by many. Hence, the vulnerability has increased so much. So with these use cases, if we kind of try and divide the cybersecurity products, so we can divide them into 2 parts. One is on the product side. So product side, there can be data security, endpoint security, say identity and access management, network security, firewall, DNS security. And on the services side, there may be a cyber security related consulting, implementation of cyber security policies, vulnerability testing and assessment of a new website or an app, uh, cybersecurity related operations, and finally response to a cybersecurity breach. So broadly, if one has invested into right products, then you may not need cybersecurity services. Services are bespoke, services are expensive, services would need a lot of managerial time also as compared to the products. And when we are talking about SMBs and cybersecurity, then there's a lack of awareness. There's a shortage of qualified, trained people who can assess the right cybersecurity tools. And obviously, there is almost always a debate that's there on the cost-benefit analysis of what kind of cybersecurity tools would provide. And here, the cost of a say somebody who has a manufacturing unit, for them, the information about the raw material price and the production quantity and the sales price is far more relevant as compared to any credit card theft. So one needs to figure out the right cost benefit metric to kind of assess what cybersecurity tools they want. Finally, this brings us to the product side of the cybersecurity practice. And here we can talk about the 5 products that TataTele is offering. So we are offering endpoint security. So that's a very popular cybersecurity product, and multiple players in the market globally. So endpoint security is something that you install on your servers, on your laptops, on your desktops, and then you put some rules and they function according to those business rules. Email security is again because the relevance and importance of emails have increased significantly. When you get an email from your manager or from some other department, it's very unlikely that you would call that person and check back, sir, have you sent that mail or not? Obviously, you would assume that he has sent that mail. And the same thing happened in Cosmos Bank at Pune. CFO got a mail from CEO that you need to release a LC for 10 crore. He did that. They caught the lapse within 24 hours by the time the money was gone. So email security is not only about sending say a phishing link or a executable file, but also about impersonification. Email has become the #1 cybersecurity threat these days, and many attacks, including Paytm Wall, many ransomware attacks are now taking place through email. Web security, it's the DNS security. Whenever staff members are going online, they have this DNS level security to ensure that they don't land up in any malicious website. Virtual firewall works just like an appliance-based firewall, only that it's much more sophisticated. It's 100% GUI-based interface, which is easier. So even a IT person who is less trained can operate, unlike a command line interface-based firewalls where you need certain amount of training. And finally, multi-factor authentication, wherein you need to have a second layer of authentication when staff members are accessing confidential company information, say a Motilal Oswal or a Policy Bazaar agent trying to dip into a customer profile. So those are 5 cybersecurity products that we are offering. And when we talk about the components of the solution, then each has a software application, maybe on cloud, maybe on premise. Then there is an administrative portal, a cloud-based portal, and the analytics and report, and everything is cloud-based. So all our cybersecurity products are cloud-based. So that's what we have on cybersecurity. Moving from cybersecurity, from smart office to something on the voice side, which is smart flow. So Smart flow is a common term for our range of voice products. As we discussed, that voice is a human voice is very important medium for business communication. And when everybody is working from home, we realize that one needs solutions which are cloud-based, wherein agents can log in using their mobile phones, and they can dip into a common server. They can make calls, they can receive calls made to an IVR. Their number would not be shared to somebody. The CLI would be company CLI. So so there is a privacy both for the customer and for the agent. And there is an element of scalability. You don't need to spend on hardware, as and when you keep adding agents, you can keep adding your voice calling infrastructure. Plus, it had various plugins wherein you can integrate with the existing CRM, with the lead funnel, or various other source systems that you may have in your organization. So on smart flow portfolio, we have missed call solutions, we have click to call, which is outgoing solutions. We have inbound IVR solutions where you can say divide agents, press 1 for sales, 2 for service. So you can divide and allocate agents. All this is real time. You get a control panel where you can make those allocations at the start of the day. If some agent has called in sick, you can replace. There are various hunting services. So if one agent is busy, the call automatically goes to the second agent that's pre-configured for that particular IVR leg. So all those inbound solutions are there. If there is a outbound campaign, then we have outbound solutions, like something we all have experienced during the election days. All these voice-based solutions are available with TataTele, and since we are a carrier, you get the best uptimes, you get the best latencies and the throughputs when you pick up a voice-based solution directly from TataTele. Moving on from voice to collaboration, so we already had a collaboration solution from PGI, which is audio conferencing. We also offered Zoom, and that's a partnership that we have in India with Zoom. And what we are offering is both Zoom meetings and Zoom webinars, and we have seen a huge traction on this, especially in the hybrid work environment, where now because Zoom being the leader in the video collaboration space, we have seen a good traction for this portfolio. So the advantage is that when you are picking, say, a cybersecurity solution, a collaboration solution, a connectivity solution, you get this all from one partner, which is TataTele, with assured service levels and with the support. So we covered smart office, we covered cybersecurity, we covered collaboration, we covered smart flow, and then let's talk about IoT. So IoT, as I shared, we have vehicle tracking, we have school bus tracking, we have workforce tracking, and we have asset tracking. So those are the IoT solutions that we are offering to our customers. And we have a long-standing IoT practice, and we have various options wherein you can go for an OpEx model, wherein we will fit in those devices in the fleet that you have, and we'll give you the portal wherein you can do the tracking, and you can pay in small parts rather than paying upfront for all the GPS tracking devices. Plus, if there is a evolving use case on IoT, we have an in-house IoT practice, and we can develop those solutions for you. So that's the IoT part for you. So what I've done is I've briefly touched upon on the key products and services that we are offering, and in benefit of time, I'll take a pause here, and we can take few questions if you have on these products.
So Hemant, I just wanted to ask you, all of your
I think I could not hear the question.
Poonam, you are on mute.
I was asking you, all of your products, are they all cloud-based? Or they are requiring certain specific setups and office spaces for any of these offerings?
Most of our products are cloud-based,
Mhm.
but the connectivity portfolio, that product, so that is on-premise, because connectivity we are terminating at customer's premise, and
Okay.
they are the products where there is a regulatory norm of kind of signing up contract with the customer.
Okay. And you do have all of these systems available in Mumbai as well, right?
Yes, definitely.
Great. Thank you.
I have a question, Hemant.
Yeah.
I didn't observe anything related, although I'm aware that you do offer, Tata Teleservices does offer some cloud storage in terms of video surveillance, and you all have done some smart cities initiative in Gujarat, etc. I think one of the new part of your smart office can also be how you can use video surveillance in various aspects of a business. So not only from enhancing physical security, but also enhancing productivity, enhancing health and safety issues, enhancing compliance issues, and over a period of time, also helping businesses to pay lesser insurance. The reason I'm mentioning insurance, very important aspect, because it's a very ignored part of how people look at video surveillance. I think video surveillance, like your no claim bonus, when you renew your insurance every year, why does insurance company give you 40% off? It gives you 40% off because you've not claimed anything from them. Now, similarly, if large organizations can reduce their claims, can reduce their shrinkage costs, and reduce their losses and fraud simply by using video surveillance more effectively and not
Sure,
letting it turn into garbage, as I mentioned earlier, I think there is a huge scope for companies like you all, not only to offer storage solutions to customers, but also to make help customers to gain more from surveillance. People don't know how to take value from cameras.
Sure.
This is the problem.
So those smart city projects are done by TCL, not by us. But the answer, the video surveillance integrating with smart office, yes, that's interesting. But that's a proposition that we can evaluate.
So we'll connect offline.
Sure.
Thanks.
Do we have any more question for Hemant? Okay, thank you, Hemant, for your presentation and briefing us about the solution provided by TataTele Business Services. And with this, it's time to conclude this panel discussion. Once again, I would like to thanks to all the panelists who have taken time out of your busy schedule and joining us. And for our delegates, your feedback on this conclave is really important for us. So before leaving this webinar or this conclave, make sure to give your feedback. If you have any particular query, if you have any question for TataTele Business Services, do write us, and our team of experts will try to resolve that. With this, on behalf of TataTele Business Services and GovConnect, thank you for joining us today. Have a nice day. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Farhan.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.